All right, this is a primer on single action army revolvers, and there are different generation setups, how to carry these and load these safely. So these are, this is an original Colt. This is a 22, but it is basically the same setup as a 1873 Colt single action army, the old peacemaker, as you call it, gun that won the West, so on and so forth. This is a Colt, as you can see with that prancy pony there. This is 7/8 size, so full size, and like 44-40 caliber or 45 Colt would be just a little bit bigger. But this is, for all intents and purposes, just as close as you can get to the original thing. So this is in 22 long rifle, and it's got a 22 Magnum cylinder that it came with loaded in there. The way these work is you will load this by opening the loading gate, pulling the hammer back to the second click, so this can rotate. There's 4 clicks, by the way, if you listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. COLT, as they say. So anyways, to load this, opening gate, half cock, you load 1 round at a time, and the way they would carry these is with 5 rounds and not 6, specifically because it was not safe to carry with 6 rounds. The hammer sitting on the round was prone to going off if you were to drop this or hit this with anything. So the only safe way to carry this was with 5 rounds and 1 on an empty chamber. So what they would do is open the loading gate, half cock, put 1 round at a time, you count to 5. So 1, skip a chamber, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when you cock it, it brings it up to the empty chamber that you left behind. You lower the hammer on an empty chamber, close the loading gate. This gun is safe to carry. It's got 5 rounds in it, weighs about 1.5 pounds, but it do got those lines, so it's all worthwhile. So Colt stopped making single action armies right before World War II, and they've started up a couple times. You see it in the Colt single action army, first generation. That'd be like the Wild West guns. Colt single action army, second generation, like ones made up through the 19 teens up through before World War II. Third generation, 70s, and then wherever it stopped. Colt is pretty bad at bringing guns to market that people want, and that's why they've gone out of business many times. But anyway, this is a 1950s or 60s gun. It's in pristine condition. Really, really nice. You can tell why these guys spent time, tuning these up and making them, their cherished gunfighter pieces, because, there was something to them. So anyway, they stopped making these. Ruger stepped in, and also Smith & Wesson. They came out with the Model 29, Dirty Harry 44 Magnum, single action. Well, the 29 was a double action like this Smith & Wesson right here. Ruger stepped in with a single action modeled similarly to this, but actually different in a lot of ways. Noticeably much thicker frame. These would explode if you were to hot rod these, which people did. Guys like Elmer Keith would, try and get the most out of these guns. Load them super hot, see how far they could push it, to the point where these, busted the top strap and the cylinder in half and nearly killed them. So he petitioned Smith & Wesson to make, bigger revolvers than this K-frame size. This is like a World War II 38 special gun. So they made them much bigger than this. And this would be Ruger's competition to the Model 29, the double action. This is a single action. So this is a very beefy, strong pistol. They make reloading recipes specifically for the Super Blackhawk that are not to be used in any other revolver that isn't built like this. I mean, this is chunky. This is not a super fair comparison because this is 22 and this is 44 Magnum, but much chunkier. Anyway, these were originally the same action as this. Pretty much, it was not safe to carry these with 6, but they marketed them as 6-shooters, which is not a good idea because people carried them with 6 shots and then injured themselves with these guns. So they lost a lawsuit or two, and now the entire owner's manual is printed on the side of these, specifically telling them to read the instruction manual. This is nice and dangerous. Just tells you the name of the gun and whose idea it was. It was Colt's, manufactured in Hartford, Connecticut, USA. Anyway, beautiful, but dangerous. More useful, but uglier. So this also has a loading gate. That hammer doesn't have a half cock because all you do with these is open the loading gate and then the cylinder spins. Compared to these, cylinder doesn't spin until you pull it back to half cock, and then you can spin it. So this will spin quite readily, I should add, as soon as you open that loading gate. So you load this 6 rounds and close it, and you're good to go. So why can you carry this with 6 and not that one? Well, this one has a transfer bar. So this bar only pops up in between the firing pin and the hammer when the trigger is pulled. So if I hold down the trigger, let go of the hammer, that thing stays there and it squishes and it provides that extra space for the hammer to actually impinge on the firing pin, which you can see right there. So as I let go of the trigger, that thing drops away. That's because you have to hold the trigger the whole time in order for that to go. So if I pull the trigger to get the hammer to go, and then let go of it, let the hammer ride, that thing's gonna drop down and the hammer will not be hitting the firing pin, and therefore a trigger, it's not being pulled, it's just like stowed away. There's no amount of force that can hit that and set it off because there's nothing being transferred, hence the transfer bar. So that's the way these modern single actions work. Just for comparison, for an old versus new with these double action Smith & Wessons. So these used to have firing pins, new ones don't. And these don't have a transfer bar. You can't see, but it's just a hole that goes from here into the chamber. These don't have a transfer bar, but when you hold the trigger down, so say I'm holding the trigger down, this lets the hammer go farther, see? And then when I let go of the trigger, it disengages that. So it's the same thing. If I pull the trigger and let this go and then let off the trigger, it's going to be that shallow depth and it won't go off. And they changed this from in World War II, allegedly one of these fell off of a aircraft carrier like flight deck onto the elevator a couple stories below, landed just right, fired a bullet, killed a serviceman, and that started a complete overhaul of all of these. So this is a Smith & Wesson Victory revolver. It's got the lanyard loop here on the bottom. It's got a V right here, a V right here, and then a US property right here, GHB. Yeah, anyway, this is a World War II gun. They gave these a transfer bar after that incident, and so these have been safe for a long time. Nowadays, this is a modern Smith & Wesson. It's a 629 mountain revolver. These do not have a firing pin. The firing pin is in the frame, similar to these old school ones that also have the firing pin in the frame. So this doesn't have a firing pin, but it's the same exact thing. So that trigger won't go all the way unless the trigger's pulled the whole time. And then there you go. So that's how modern ones work. Just to throw a loop for you, here's an extremely weird and unusual 9mm Parabellum Smith & Wesson 547. These are pretty rare. This is a very late, like 80s, 90s innovation where they were marketing to police departments that were still kind of attached to revolvers, but obviously everything was moving to 9mm. So this is kind of like, something that you know, the old guard could stock and also use the same ammo as everybody else. They didn't make a lot of these. These were very expensive to manufacture and has a very unusual hammer thing. So same exact things with the other ones, no hammer. When it falls, it doesn't just hit a firing pin, it also is hitting basically what amounts to a firing pin, but it is meant to push forwards on the back of a 9mm cartridge so that basically it head spaces correctly and doesn't slam into the back of the you know, the frame, the recoil shield there. So you can see it. You can actuate these by pushing this back, the cylinder release, and then so there goes the hand. It turns the cylinder. If I was to pull the trigger, watch not just that firing pin you can see there, but look right up here. There's another one which also gets pushed forward, and that's what's pushing on the head of the case and keeping it at the right depth. You know, the whole bullet and casing in the cylinder chamber. Another fun thing about these is it doesn't have an extractor star like these. Normal. Oops, not normal. So that is the Smith & Wesson 547, and that is about how far they came before they stopped trying to innovate on revolvers and they just became something that eclectic people enjoy. Anyway, there you go. That's some revolvers for you.